Hi, my name is Rachel, and you're listening to Maker Style, a creative lifestyle podcast where we talk about small business, blogging, and of course, lots and lots of sewing. Listening to the Maker Style podcast is like sitting down for a coffee and chat with your girlfriends who are just as passionate about making things as you are. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Maker Style podcast. I am so happy to have you here with me today. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking with Sara from the Sara Project about some awesome beginner sewing tips and tricks. She's got so much great information about how to learn to sew better, just lots of random awesome things to consider and will make your life easier, especially if you're just a beginner starting out. Now, if you haven't heard of Sara, she's a really super sweet blogger, really accomplished, has done lots and lots of fun things, and she was just such a joy to talk to. When Sara and I were trying to brainstorm some ideas for the episode, she came up with so many awesome things to talk about that we had to split it up into 2 episodes. So make sure that you come check back and hear more from Sara in episode 5, where she's going to share some of her favorite fall sewing trends and the patterns that she uses to achieve them. Sara is just one of those people where her joy and enthusiasm is so contagious, and it's just so wonderful to listen to her speak and get excited about sewing. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and all the beginner tips and tricks that she has to offer. And of course, don't forget to check back. October 16th is when episode 5, her next episode on the Maker Style podcast, is going to air, and we're going to talk about lots of fall trends. Anyways, I hope that you enjoy this episode. That's enough of me chatting. Let's head over to the interview. So where do you guys listen to the Maker Style podcast? I am so super curious. Personally, I love to listen to podcasts while I'm in the car driving to wherever I have to go because I don't really like to drive and it lessens the pain a little bit. But I really want to know what you guys are up to right now. So please shoot me a message on Instagram at The Wild Stitch. I can't wait to continue this conversation online. Sara, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Rachel. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Now, do you mind telling anyone listening just a little bit about yourself in case they haven't met you?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Sara Johansson, and I have a blog. It's called the Sara Project, and I'm a sewing blogger, so I like to share all of my more fashion-forward women's garments on my blog. I mostly just sew for myself. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I stay home during the day with my 2 kids. They're ages 3 and 18 months. So they're pretty young. They keep me pretty busy during the day. Yeah. So I get most of my sewing done at night when they're asleep. But it's my me time, so it's awesome. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so do you want to know a little bit about when I started sewing and all of that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. How did you get into sewing? How did that happen?
Yeah, sure. So I started sewing about 7 years ago in 2009. I was going to school at Brigham Young University here in Utah, and I was studying family life, and they have some really awesome clothing construction classes in that major. So I started taking the beginning class, and I fell in love with sewing clothing. I had sewn a little bit before growing up, but not really clothing, and so that's kind of where I fell in love with it. So I took all the classes I could. While I was there, I took some awesome classes like pattern making and textiles and advanced clothing construction. It was really fun. And then I graduated and got married, had my 2 kids, and that's where I kind of found I really needed something for myself and kind of started my blog.
No, absolutely. But that's awesome. And the Sara Project has really grown, too, over the last couple of years. It's been really awesome to see how your blog's kind of evolved.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So I've had my blog for a few years, like you said, but it's really just been this last year that I've really pushed myself out into the sewing community and doing just garment sewing on my blog. So it's been really fun to see the growth and all the people that I've been able to meet in this last year. It's been a really fun experience.
Yeah, that's the best part, meeting all the people.
I know. Everyone's so nice. Everyone's so supportive and nice with their fun comments, and everyone's so inspiring too.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's a great creative space for sure.
Yeah, I love it.
And if you're not familiar with Sara, she also, you might find her some other places in the blogosphere. You blog for Barina, right?
Yeah, so over the last year, probably about January or February, I became a Bernina ambassador,
Ooh.
which has been so fun. So yeah, I get to have a Bernina sewing machine on loan while I'm an ambassador with them, and I get to contribute to their blog, which is weallsew.com. So there's
Oh.
some really fun tutorials everyone's been posting on that blog too.
Oh, that's
It's fun to
amazing.
contribute. Yeah,
And
that's really fun.
it's nice to see a whole bunch of bloggers getting together for a project and working on something specific.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I really enjoyed working with Bernina so far.
That's awesome. Now, for this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about how to find a sewing pattern for whatever you're looking to make and kind of what your process is when it comes from idea to pattern finding. So, first and foremost, how do you find your ideas of what you're going to sew?
Yeah, so I have a couple places I look. So I usually look for some trends that kind of stand out to me. So that's kind of the first place I go. I'll go to like Nordstrom.com. I really like Madewell and Anthropologie. I also like to look at designers and what they're putting out for the season. And then I kind of find things that work for me in my personal style. I think it's really important when you're going through this process to figure out what to sew next, as you're looking through trends, to find something that works for you. There's not always going to be a trend that you love, but there's definitely going to be one that does work for you, that you can incorporate into your own personal style. So that's what I really like to do. I like to find things that kind of stand out to me, and then I'll go into some places I like to look for patterns to find a pattern that kind of matches that look that I found. So for patterns, I usually I have a couple sources that I really like. I love indiesew.com.
Of course.
I'm sure you've heard of them before, yeah. They have a really great resource of indie patterns on their website. You can search through like dresses and pants, and it's really easy to break it down and find what you're looking for. And another source I really love is called The Fold Line, and it's thefoldline.com. Have you heard of them before?
I follow them on Instagram, but I haven't used their website a whole lot.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think their website has a lot of like sharing where you can post your makes and share them with the community on the Fold Line, but I really like to use it for searching patterns. So when you go to their website, you'll see 3 circles. There's a green circle that says search patterns. So you just click on that, and then you can search through their pattern archive. And I feel like they have the best selection of patterns. So they just take you to the company's website. They just link you to the website where you can buy the pattern, I believe.
Oh, awesome. That's really
convenient.
convenient.
But they've got like the big 4, they've got McCall's and like all of those. And then they have a lot of indie patterns too. And like some designers I've never heard of before. So I really like going there. You can just like search jeans or pants and it pulls up like tons of patterns. So that's probably my favorite one to go to.
Awesome. Well, that's really great. How do you narrow down when you're looking on Indie Sew and you're looking on the Fold Line, you're getting all this inspiration and you're making a short list? How do you narrow it down to the pattern that you're going to sew?
I usually have a pretty unique style, specific style that I'm looking for. So it's pretty easy. Like, for example, if you wanted to do like a turtleneck, that's pretty simple to find. Mm-hmm. Usually you might find a couple patterns, but you can find like the styles are slightly different. So I don't know. I like things that are a little bit more loose fitting, not super form fitting. So it's really easy for me to go, okay, well, I don't want that one that's super tight fitting or form fitting. And then if I have more of like a broad idea, I'll save like a couple, like if I'm looking for a dress, for example, I'll save like my top 5 and then I'll go back and look through them and like pick the one that I think will work best for what I have in mind.
Mm-hmm. It's always great to be reusing patterns. Save some money and save some cutting out too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's good to use your pattern stash for sure.
Absolutely. Now.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, for pattern resources, those are my 2 favorite that I have. And then for fabric, once I've got my pattern in mind and the look I'm going for, I have to find the fabric to go with it, right?
Yeah, that's always the next step.
Yes. And for me, this is what takes me the longest because I'm so picky and I have to find like the right thing, but then I'll find it and it'll jump out at me and I'll know that's the right one. So again, some fabric sources that I really love. Indie Sew is awesome. They come out with a new, they call it a pattern or a fabric batch, and they have maybe like 4 to 6 different fabrics that go with the batch. And they're all amazing, so you really can't go wrong buying fabric from Indie Sew. All their stuff's really up to date and really trendy and really cool.
Yeah,
so I love their fabric. Have you ever heard of Style Maker Fabrics?
I have.
Yeah, so her name's Michelle. She runs Style Maker Fabrics. She's really awesome. It's just stylemakerfabrics.com. And she's really good at pulling things for each season. I've talked to her before, and she said that she looks through magazines and gets ideas for, again, what the trends are for the season, and then pulls her fabric based off of what she finds. So I can trust her and know that everything on her website's really like fashion forward and trendy too. And she's really cool because you can email her and say, hey, Michelle, I want to do something with this pattern. What fabrics would you recommend? And she's really awesome. She'll give you a couple of things that she has in mind for that pattern that she thinks would be good to sew it with. Oh, so I really like her that. Yeah, I really love her for that because she's fun to, and it's fun to kind of talk back and forth about it. And she always has great ideas. I always walk away inspired when I talk to her. So.
No doubt. And what a great resource for beginners too. I know a lot of my makes that I made right at the beginning of my sewing career, it wasn't the technique that was wrong about them. It was always the fabric choice. I was trying to use the wrong fabrics. And especially up here in Canada, I'm sure anyone that lives outside of the US can probably relate. It's hard to get a lot of things shipped in. Shipping's really expensive. And if you don't have a great farm store nearby, it's not a whole lot of options.
Yeah, I totally agree though. It's all about having the right fabric. I definitely made some projects in the beginning and the fabric was totally wrong for the project. So
yeah, there are some built-in cotton disasters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I have a couple of more. Fabric.com. I think everybody knows about Fabric.com. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they've got everything and they have a really good resource of options too. And I feel like they have a really good resource of fashion apparel fabrics too lately. They've been adding a lot of really good stuff for making clothes.
And it's so fun to browse there.
I know, it's hard to stop sometimes because they have so many options. It's hard for me to narrow it down. But I love fabric.com.
Now, when you're...
go ahead.
No, but when you're buying fabric online, how do you avoid fabric that's bad quality? Do you have any tips for that?
You know, I feel like I've come to trust these companies that I buy fabric from. Awesome. That I've kind of learned that the quality is really good at these places. I like to go to Joann's too sometimes, but at Joann's I have to feel it. You know, it's hard to tell online with some fabrics, so... But I feel like with Indie Sew, Style Maker Fabrics, and even Fabric.com, the quality's there.
That's awesome.
And again, another tip is look at the back of your pattern, see what fabrics they're recommending. You can't go wrong doing that. So
awesome.
That's a good resource too.
Now, do you always choose your pattern first and then go to fabric, or do you stash up some fabric?
I used to have a pattern stash, but lately I have been bouncing from project to project. I'm a planner, so I really enjoy planning things out. It's hard for me to buy fabric without a plan. So I don't have much of a stash currently. Sometimes I'll see a fabric that I love, but I'm usually looking at a specific project in mind. So a company might come to me with some fabric, and then I'll find something to go with it, but... I'm not very good at stashing my fabric. I need to be better at that.
I don't know. It's probably a good thing for your storage, you know, have like less
it is, but then it's like not fun when you're like, oh, I need something for this last minute thing and you don't have it. So
yeah, absolutely. Always keep some black crepe around. I always find that comes.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Do you have any tips for beginners about how to make the sewing process a little bit easier? You know, once you have your fabric and your pattern and you're ready to go.
I do. So as I've really been learning a lot over this last year and learning tips from, I actually like to listen to a lot of podcasts. So it's fun to finally be on a podcast. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
But I've learned a lot of tips from them and from other bloggers and just watching people on Instagram. So I'm excited to share them with you. So the first thing I really like to do when I'm about to sew a project, so I usually have the pattern in mind, but maybe not the fabric yet. Mm-hmm. I go on Instagram and I search the hashtag for the pattern. So you just go to the search page and type in hashtag. So right now I'm sewing up the Fen dress. So I just recently did this. And so I did hashtag Fen dress and it pulls up like 50 images that other people have posted of the dress.
Yes,
And
love that.
Yeah, it's a really great way to get inspired for fabric options, or maybe fabric options to stay away from, or maybe different ways that they altered the pattern to fit them.
Mm-hmm.
I really like going there to kind of get a first look at how the pattern came out and maybe some changes I might want to make to it. So that's one of my favorite tips.
I like
Another one. Oh, go ahead.
No, I like doing that too. I think it's another great way when you're looking at patterns, pattern hashtags. You can really find people that have a similar aesthetic have a similar aesthetic to you and what you're going after when you're looking at someone that obviously likes the same kind of style and patterns as you. So I found a lot of great people through
yeah, and I agree. Hashtags. It's a good way to find people too. It's kind of like stalking, but it's really fun. I am guilty of doing that. Another thing I've kind of learned is so today on the what is it called?
So you know that
hop. Yes, so photo hop. Thank you.
No problem.
I think today is like projects that didn't work out. I think that's what everyone's sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have anything. I've really learned over this last year to make things work. I've definitely had a couple of projects where I've been really frustrated and I'm like, oh, I can't get the pieces to fit, or why isn't this working? But I found that with my best friend, my seam ripper, I'm able to make things work. And I feel like I've become really confident in myself in making things work. So keep at it. If you get frustrated with a project, usually there's a way to figure it out to make it work and make it wearable.
Do you have kind of like a process you go through if you mess up and you're like, oh man, this is not working? What's your next step? Is there like something that you usually try and go to fix it?
Yeah, I usually will go back to the pattern. That's the first place I'll go to kind of like see what's going on, or go back to the instructions to usually end up ripping it out and starting over, sewing it back in. I think the pattern is your best bet. To go back to the pattern, and if the fabric pattern you cut out doesn't fit the pattern, then that's probably your problem. Mm-hmm. But like, you can't really go around matching it back up to the pattern. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips?
I do. I think a big one for sewing your own clothes, at least for me at first when I was starting out, is to make sure you don't get hung up on the imperfections in your garment. Would you have to agree to that one?
Oh, yes. Always.
Yeah. I think it's hard. So I made this Archer shirt last fall out of flannel, and I love it. But the pattern doesn't match up. It's a little bit off. I'm not very good at pattern matching and working on that skill. My pockets are like slightly off, and it was one of the first projects that I sewed for myself, kind of jumping back into sewing clothing. And so I wasn't giving myself a hard time about it, but I don't like wearing it because I'm embarrassed to say I made it and the pattern doesn't match up. But over the last year, I've really learned to not get caught up in that. A lot of ready-to-wear items aren't sewn perfectly, or things are always off a little bit there too. Usually the patterns don't match up. And ready to wear, unless it's like a designer piece or something, I've noticed. So I've really learned to just appreciate the garment that I made, to be proud of it and to love it, and to not let those little things, because trust me, there's usually one or two in everything that I make. Little things that I know are wrong.
And you know what? I've come to realize too that the only person that's gonna notice this mistake is me. And I'm gonna look at it and it's gonna drive me crazy. But the 3 people that see it on the street are gonna be like, oh, that's a shirt. She's wearing a shirt. They're not going to see the fact that the hem's a little crooked, or
totally
where it's not supposed to be. So
totally, yeah. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind if you're getting into sewing, or if you have been sewing for a long time. Be proud of your thing that you made, because it's a lot of work and a lot of time. So I like to keep that one in mind. Something else I really like to do, I did this a lot in the beginning when I was trying to keep the cost down, because it can be expensive to sew.
Yes.
I tried to use pair different patterns that I already owned together to modify them to create a certain style that I had in mind. So an example of this is I recently posted this really cute dress. I used the Seamly Tee pattern. It's a knit t-shirt pattern, just really basic and really cute. I had this idea to make it into a dress, so I altered the pattern. I cut the pattern off at the waist and attached a gathered skirt to it. It was really easy, really simple, and so I was able to use the pattern I already had instead of going through the whole process of creating just that little shirt part of the dress. Saved a lot of time doing that and money because I didn't have to buy the whole dress pattern from someone else.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really like to do that too. I do that a lot.
Did you blog this Seamly Tea dress?
I did. It's the gingham, blue and white gingham
I love
knit
that.
from, it's from Girl Charlie Bolt. Really cute. I think I saw you had a picture of it too. Have you worked with it?
I don't. The gingham, I have some blue and white check gingham right now that I just finished working on. I made like a little wrap skirt, but it was just from Lens Mill, like a little discount retailer here in Ontario.
It looked so similar. I thought that has to be the same one. I love gingham and I love blue and white. So
yeah,
that's a good one.
It's so great. We're hanging on to the last little shreds of summer here.
I know, seriously. This next tip it's like everyone knows this. It's so basic, but I just thought of this while I was thinking through what I really like to do. Read your pattern beforehand, and every pattern says this. Maybe I'm just really lazy because I used to not do this. I was so excited to start sewing my thing. I didn't want to waste 30 minutes reading through all the steps.
Absolutely.
But I think it really is so important. It helps the process go a lot faster. It helps prevent mistakes. I've noticed when I don't read the pattern, I kind of get stuck on a step that I have to read over like 5 or 6 times. That's where I wish I would have read through it and read to the steps ahead to figure out why these pieces go together this way. So yes. That's something that I would recommend doing if you aren't doing that. But,
and even as an experienced sewist, I kind of find that I'm like, oh, I've made a t-shirt before. I don't need to read the instructions. And then I'll get to a part where I'm like, oh, this isn't matching up how the other t-shirts I've made match up because I wasn't following their instructions and I wasn't really following the process. So it's easy to kind of get caught up in your own knowledge and go like, oh, I totally have this under control.
I know. I'm totally guilty of that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun, I think, to go to read through the pattern because designers there's so many different techniques and ways to put things together. So it's kind of fun. I enjoy studying the way that they piece a pattern together or design their pattern pieces. So it's kind of interesting. Too. Yeah, and even simple things like finishing things too. So I really, And then I have one more tip I'll share with you guys. And this is another obvious one, but YouTube. YouTube is such a huge sewing resource. Do you use it a lot?
I do. I've probably watched this one invisible zipper tutorial. I've watched probably a million times, probably every time I need to insert an invisible zip. I'll link it in the show notes. It's fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, it just gives you that little bit of confidence, even if you watched it a million times before. But yeah, they have a video for every sewing technique out there. So use YouTube. It's such a great resource. I have all these books from when I was in school, and I usually go to YouTube first to see if there's a video for it. So
and it's quicker too.
Yeah, it's a lot quicker. And I'm a visual person, so I really like watching them do it instead of just reading it in a book. Mm-hmm. I had to sew an exposed zipper into a pattern I was testing a few weeks ago. And I've the last year I've really only used invisible zippers, so I was like, shoot. So I went to YouTube, found a video, and it was super easy. So
what did you make with it? Have you posted it yet?
Yeah, it's the Everyday Blouse by Rachel and then Upcraft Club. They did it together. She used Upcraft Club to design to put the pattern together for her, but she designed it. Yeah, you can put it in the show notes maybe too. But it's a great pattern. It's a really good one for fall too.
It's kind of like a woven tee kind of.
It has like a gathering along the shoulder seams.
Oh, gorgeous.
All right, no, it's along the neckline, and then they have a really cute like side exposed zipper. It's really cute.
Awesome. I'm a huge fan of anything that can be made with wovens that's still casual. Like woven tees are totally my jam, so that sounds...
Yes, you have lots of cute ones. I love all of yours.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, Sarah, we're just about at time for our episode today. If our listeners today want to find out a little bit more about you, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, so I have my blog. It's thesaraproject.com. I usually post a couple times a month there, things that I've finished. And then I'm also on Instagram. It's at the Sara Project _ and Sara is Sara. I get asked that every time. And those are the two places I post the most. And Instagram's really fun. I like to post sneak peeks of the fabrics I'm starting to work on. Kind of just take you along on my sewing process. You can kind of keep up with the different projects I'm working on there. I love Instagram. I love it so much.
Yeah, and your stories are always super fun, too. Nice to tune into.
Thanks. Thanks. Oh, thanks. Well, so are yours. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks so
I
much
hope
for
you enjoyed
having
coming on
me.
the show today. We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, that's all I have for today's episode of the Maker Style podcast. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to that episode just as much as I did recording it, because I had so much fun. You know, my favorite part of this process has been meeting all of you guys. It's been a total blast. If you haven't already come over and said hi, you can do so at my blog, at The Wild Stitch, or give me a shout out on Instagram at The Wild Stitch. I am so excited to meet you guys and hang out with you guys there. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.